Why? You don't run this lot.
I do.
And that clamp stays until I say otherwise.
This is my property. You verify nothing before seizing my vehicle.
Produce ID or I'll detain you for obstruction. You're not above enforcement.
You have no legal grounds.
Turn around. Don't make this worse. That's it. Hands behind your back.
Let go of me.
Stop resisting.
You have no warrant, no cause.
Hey, turn around.
Womack, hold up.
Release my arm.
On a quiet weekday afternoon in downtown Huntsville, a police officer decided a black attorney didn't belong in her own parking lot. Within minutes, her vehicle was clamped, a citation was issued, and an encounter caught on camera began unfolding into something the Huntsville Police Department would later struggle to explain. What Officer Barrett Womack didn't realize was that the woman he chose to intimidate owned far more than the car he was threatening to seize. If you believe accountability matters and power should never be abused, subscribe now. This story unfolds in real time, and it only escalates from here. At 3:38 p.m., Kalista Booker, 41, stepped out of Booker Marceline Legal Group, PLLC, adjusting the strap of her leather briefcase while finishing a call with a client. A civil litigation attorney with nearly 15 years of courtroom experience, Booker had built her firm from scratch. 6 months earlier, she finalized the purchase of the downtown property, including the private parking lot directly outside the building. She ended the call mid-sentence. A bright yellow steel clamp was locked around the front driver's side tire of her black Audi. A patrol unit sat diagonally behind it. Officer Barrett Womack stood near the hood, writing on a citation pad. "What's going on?" Booker asked, walking toward him. Without looking up, Womack replied, "Vehicles illegally parked." "This is private property," she said evenly. "I own this building." That got his attention. He looked up slowly, eyes scanning her from head to toe, tailored navy suit, heels, a firm badge clipped near her lapel. "Do you?" he said flatly. "You have documentation for that?" "I don't need documentation to park at my office." "You people always say that," Womack muttered, scribbling again. "Rules apply to everybody." Her expression didn't change. "Officer, remove the clamp." Instead of answering, he stepped closer, reducing the distance between them. "You're obstructing my enforcement process. Step back." "I'm asking what ordinance you're citing." He tore the ticket from his pad and handed it toward her without explanation. "You can dispute it in court." She didn't take it. "You clamped my vehicle without confirming ownership." Womack's tone hardened. "Ma'am, I don't have time for attitude. Either you cooperate or this escalates." "Escalates how?" He leaned slightly forward. "Disorderly conduct, interference. I can make that happen." A tow truck turned onto the street and slowed near the curb. Booker glanced at it, then back at him. "You're towing a vehicle parked on property I own?" Womack's jaw tightened. "Last warning, produce ID and proof of ownership or you're being detained." The tow truck driver stepped out, hesitating as he looked between them. Womack rested his hand near his duty belt. "Turn around," he said. And that's where everything shifted. "Turn around." Kalista Booker didn't move. The tow truck engine idled behind Officer Barrett Womack's patrol unit. The driver stood still, unsure whether to approach the Audi or step back entirely. "I'm not turning around," Booker said evenly. "You have no lawful basis to detain me." Womack stepped closer, close enough that she could smell coffee on his breath. "You're obstructing an active investigation." "What investigation?" "Illegal parking, failure to comply, interference." "This is private property," she repeated, "owned by Booker Marceline Legal Group. That's my firm." He gave a short laugh. "You expect me to believe you own this building?" "Yes." "Then prove it." "I don't carry property deeds in my purse." His jaw flexed. He looked past her toward the office entrance, then back at her. "You don't look like the property owner," he said flatly. There it was, not subtle, not coded. Booker held his stare. What exactly is that supposed to mean? It means, he said, lowering his voice, people who own downtown commercial property don't argue over parking tickets. They handle it properly. I am handling it properly. You clamped my vehicle without verifying ownership. He stepped to her side suddenly, positioning himself between her and the office door. Produce identification. I will once you explain the legal basis for detaining me. His hand brushed his handcuffs. Don't test me. Across the street, 2 pedestrians had slowed. One lifted a phone. Womack noticed. His voice grew louder. You are being non-compliant. Last chance. I'm asking for your supervisor, Booker said calmly. That's not how this works. The tow truck driver approached cautiously. Officer, you want me to hook it? Yes, Womack snapped. The driver hesitated. She says she owns the lot. I didn't ask you to evaluate ownership, Womack replied. Hook the vehicle. Booker pulled her phone from her bag. Womack's expression changed instantly. Put the phone away. I'm documenting this. You do not record me while I'm conducting enforcement. I absolutely do. He reached toward her wrist, not grabbing fully but enough to signal he could. I said, put it away. Remove your hand, she said firmly. His face tightened, irritation turning personal. You think because you've got a title and a suit you're above enforcement? No, I think you targeted the wrong person. The tow truck driver stopped moving. The pedestrians were fully watching now. Womack keyed his radio abruptly. Dispatch, start me another unit, possible resisting. Booker didn't react outwardly, but her voice sharpened. You're escalating this because I challenged you. You're escalating this because you won't comply. Red and blue lights reflected faintly off the law firm windows as another patrol car turned onto the block. Womack stepped back slightly, adjusting his vest. You're about to learn how this works. The second unit pulled in behind the tow truck, and the situation was no longer contained. The second patrol unit stopped behind the tow truck. The door opened, but before the assisting officer could fully step out, Kalista Booker turned slightly toward the entrance of her building. Tressa, she called calmly. The glass doors of Booker Marceline Legal Group opened almost immediately. Tressa Von Ellery, the firm's operations manager, stepped outside holding a slim gray file box against her chest. She had clearly been watching through the lobby windows. What's happening? Tressa asked, eyes moving from the clamp to Officer Barrett Womack. He's towing a vehicle parked on property we own, Booker replied evenly. Ma'am, stay back. This doesn't concern you. It absolutely concerns me, Tressa said, walking directly to Booker's side. She opened the file box without being asked. Certified deed copy, county registration, property tax receipt, commercial zoning approval. She handed the top document toward Womack. He didn't take it. I'm not reviewing paperwork on the sidewalk. You should have reviewed ownership before clamping the vehicle, Booker responded. The assisting officer, younger, quieter, glanced at the documents. Sir, we might want to... I've got it, Womack snapped. The pedestrians were closer now. One was clearly recording. Tressa turned one of the pages outward so it was visible. Property purchased 6 months ago, recorded with Madison County. Parcel number is listed at the top. Womack finally grabbed the document, scanning it briefly. His posture shifted, but only slightly. This doesn't authorize you to ignore parking regulations. There are no municipal parking regulations on private commercial lots without posted city enforcement signage, which we do not have. He looked at the signage near the curb. It displayed firm reserved parking only, not city enforced. He handed the paper back abruptly. Even if that's accurate, you're interfering with an active stop. There was no stop. You created one. The assisting officer stepped closer to Womack, lowering his voice. Sir, the lot does appear private. Womack's jaw tightened again. You don't determine enforcement authority. I do. Kalista took a slow breath. Officer Womack, remove the clamp from my vehicle. Instead of responding, he turned toward the tow truck driver. Hook it. The driver didn't move. "She just showed you the deed," he said quietly. Womack stepped toward him aggressively. "You work for me on this scene." "No, sir," the driver replied carefully. "I work for the company." Silence hung heavy in the air. The second patrol officer shifted uncomfortably. The pedestrians were still filming. Kalista's voice remained steady. "You're attempting to seize property without jurisdiction." Womack keyed his radio again, voice clipped. "Dispatch, confirm commercial enforcement boundaries on Clinton Avenue." There was a pause. Static. Then the dispatcher responded. "Unit 214, Clinton Avenue west of Washington is privately owned commercial property. No city parking enforcement unless requested by owner." The street went quiet. Every eye turned to Womack. His face hardened. He looked at Booker differently now, not dismissive, not mocking, angry. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You think this is over?" She didn't blink. "You made it bigger than it needed to be." His hand moved toward the clamp key on his belt, but he didn't unlock it. Not yet. Barrett Womack's fingers rested on the clamp key, but he didn't unlock it. Instead, he stepped back and adjusted his vest like he was recalibrating. "You're real confident," he said quietly to Kalista Booker. "Most people in your position would have handled this differently." "My position?" she asked. "You know exactly what I mean." The second patrol officer shifted again. The tow truck driver stayed near his cab, not touching the vehicle. Womack suddenly raised his voice. "Dispatch, start a supervisor." The younger officer looked surprised. "Sir?" "Now." Kalista didn't speak. She simply watched him. Within minutes, another unit pulled onto Clinton Avenue. The vehicle stopped behind the patrol cars, lights off but presence clear. A tall woman stepped out, posture direct, eyes already scanning the scene. Lieutenant Marion Sloan Rooker. "What do we have?" she asked, walking toward Womack first. "Non-compliant subject interfering with a lawful enforcement action, refusing ID, escalating the scene." Rooker's eyes moved past him to Kalista. Suit pressed, firm badge visible, calm stance, no physical agitation. "Ma'am?" Rooker asked. "I'm Kalista Booker. I own this building and the parking lot. Officer Womack clamped my vehicle without verifying jurisdiction. Dispatch just confirmed this is private property." Rooker looked at Womack. "Is that accurate?" "She's disputing enforcement authority," he replied. "Wouldn't provide ID." "I requested legal basis for detention," Kalista corrected. Tressa stepped forward again, offering the document folder. "Lieutenant, here's the recorded deed and zoning confirmation." Rooker took the papers. She actually read them. Silence settled while traffic passed at the end of the block. "You initiated parking enforcement on private commercial property?" Rooker asked without looking up. Womack's jaw flexed. The vehicle appeared improperly parked. "It's parked in a space marked Reserved Booker Marceline Legal." He didn't answer that. Rooker handed the paperwork back to Tressa. "Remove the clamp." For a moment, Womack didn't move. "Lieutenant?" "That's a directive." The tension shifted instantly. The second patrol officer stepped slightly away from Womack, creating visible distance. Womack crouched near the tire, unlocking the clamp with sharp, irritated movements. The metal released with a loud click. He stood, holding the heavy device in his hand. "You're free to go," he said coldly to Kalista. "I was never legally detained," she replied. That comment landed. Rooker looked between them carefully. "Is there anything else I need to know about this interaction?" There was a pause. Kalista held Womack's stare. "Yes," she said, and the way she said it made clear this wasn't finished. Lieutenant Miriam Rooker turned fully toward her. "Go ahead." Kalista didn't raise her voice. She didn't gesture. She spoke the same way she did inside a courtroom, controlled, precise. Officer Womack threatened detention after being informed this was private property. He attempted to tow a legally parked vehicle and discouraged documentation when I began recording. Rooker's expression tightened slightly. Womack exhaled sharply. That's not accurate. Kalista continued without acknowledging him. He also implied the situation could be handled differently if I cooperated in a manner unrelated to any cited ordinance. The street went quiet again. The younger officer looked down. The tow truck driver leaned against his vehicle, listening openly now. Rooker shifted her attention back to Womack. "Officer Womack, step aside with me." He hesitated. "Lieutenant, now." They moved several feet away, but not far enough to escape attention. Womack's posture stiffened as Rooker spoke quietly but firmly. His responses were short, defensive. At one point he glanced back toward Kalista, frustration obvious. The second patrol officer approached Booker cautiously. "Ma'am, are you intending to file a formal complaint?" "Yes." He nodded once, almost relieved. Rooker returned moments later. "Ms. Booker," she said, professional again, "I'm documenting this incident for supervisory review. Internal Affairs will likely request copies of your recording. That won't be a problem." Rooker turned to the tow truck driver. "You're cleared. No tow authorized." The driver wasted no time getting back into his truck. Then Rooker faced Womack. "Officer, you're finished on this call." His eyes narrowed. "Finished?" "Yes." He removed his gloves slowly, movements tight with anger. Kalista watched as he placed the clamp into his patrol trunk. The confidence he'd carried earlier was gone, replaced with something heavier, realization. But before getting into his vehicle, Womack stopped beside her one last time. Low enough that only she could hear, he said, "You just made this a bigger problem than it needed to be." Kalista met his gaze calmly. "No, officer, you did." Womack shut his door harder than necessary and pulled away from the curb. Lieutenant Rooker watched the patrol car disappear down Clinton Avenue. Then her radio crackled, and the situation officially moved beyond the street. The confrontation on Clinton Avenue ended in less than 30 minutes. The consequences lasted months. 2 days after the incident, Lieutenant Miriam Rooker submitted her supervisory report to Huntsville Police Department command staff. Attached were body cam files from both responding officers, dispatch audio confirming jurisdiction limits, and the civilian recording provided by Kalista Booker. Internal Affairs opened a formal investigation the same week. Officer Barrett Womack was reassigned pending review. At first, the department classified the matter as a procedural complaint, improper enforcement authority. But once investigators reviewed the footage in sequence, the focus shifted. The timeline showed escalation without legal basis, the clamp placed before ownership verification, repeated refusal to review documentation, threats of detention unsupported by statute, and most damaging, recorded statements suggesting coercion while exercising police authority. Also, investigators uncovered prior informal complaints involving Womack's conduct during enforcement stops in commercial districts. None had previously resulted in discipline. This time was different. Witness footage recorded from across the street surfaced online after one of the bystanders uploaded a shortened clip showing the detention threat. Within days, local media requested departmental comment. Booker never held a press conference. She returned to work the next morning. Clients continued entering Booker Marceline Legal Group as usual, walking past the same parking spaces where the incident began. The only visible change was new signage installed near the entrance. Private property, owner-authorized parking only. 6 weeks later, Internal Affairs concluded its investigation. Officer Barrett Womack violated departmental conduct standards, enforcement protocol, and constitutional policing guidelines related to unlawful detention and abuse of authority. He resigned before final termination proceedings were completed. The department issued a public statement confirming policy violations and corrective review measures for commercial property enforcement training. No criminal charges were filed, but the outcome followed him professionally. For Kalista Booker, the matter ended quietly, exactly how she preferred. The property remained hers, the firm expanded staff later that year, and the parking lot where an officer once assumed she didn't belong became daily proof of something much larger. Authority without accountability eventually collapses under evidence. And sometimes the biggest mistake isn't writing the ticket, it's choosing the wrong person to intimidate. If this story showed you how quickly power can be abused and how important it is to stand firm when it happens, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this aren't rare, they're just rarely told from beginning to end. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us for more real-world encounters where accountability catches up, one incident at a time.